But what I do is I record my lectures and then I'll have interactive discussion with them, or they'll have note taking that they have to do with that lecture. And I try to incorporate some of my personality into that lecture as well, so there's humor, and it's not just that robotic, you're watching some seminar from some website somewhere, but I actually try to incorporate some of the things that I would normally do in class and jokes I would normally tell, although I don't have any laughing feedback, so it's kind of difficult. But hopefully they appreciate it.
Are you teaching this class in the building too, or is it only virtual?
I am teaching in the building as well.
So is the pace the same? Are they aligned?
The virtual class is a little behind right now because they spent the first couple of weeks working on how to work through Canvas. I used a lot of that time to make sure that they understood it. And then I also have been a little bit slower as far as trying to gauge the amount of work and how when you move from day to day versus week to week, it's a little bit different. And then if something isn't working, then I have to delay it a week because the video didn't work, and now I have to push that back and change things around. So I'm a little bit behind, about a unit behind, but it's not that far off. They're pretty close to being on the same alignment, and that's what I'm trying to do is keep them at the same pace. It's a good gauge for me, so I know that I'm good.
Is your online and offline class having the same assessments?
Yes and no. The online in-class assessments, the first few we didn't do on Canvas because Canvas wasn't set up for my brick and mortar yet. So I did them in the classroom. So my students online did take an online assessment that had similar questions, but Canvas offers the opportunity to rotate questions and rotate answers, which is really nice. So even if they know what the question is, they still have to figure out what the answer is. They can't just memorize it to be. They have to actually know the answer ultimately, so that it rotates anyhow on Canvas. So they have a pool of the same questions.
Do you see any differences in how the students are performing?
No. I don't so far. I mean, they're the same range or bell curve that you would see in my normal class, you see in my online classes, even with the tests. And I have not, you can create the test so that there's a code that they have to go and get a specific code from the librarian and sit down with the librarian, make sure they don't have any extra materials. And I have not set up that code for the online classes, and I still have students who don't do well and students who ace it. There's still that bell curve. So my test is timed, so they don't have a lot of time looking up stuff. They could prepare ahead of time and have stuff sitting in front of them, but I'm not timing the students are interested.
Do you gather a lot of metadata around, like the time between, can you gather the time between questions and
how long it takes them to
order
answer the question?
Exactly, so you get that. Do you, not to you, but at what grade are people starting to use Canvas? What grade?
We have one 7th grader, I believe 6 8th graders.
So you lead to my question, which is, looking back, let's apply 2 years in the future and look back 6 months. Do we think that we have to give 8th graders, as they're leaving 8th grade, familiarization course so that they get to high school?
To save you those couple of weeks. Well, I think what we need to do is make a decision on an LMS for the district, and that's one of the things that, and Robert's been part of this conversation, but because even some of the hesitancy we've seen with some teachers related to using it is, I'm interested in going in that direction, but I want to make sure that if I invest that time and energy, that I'm not doing it in this LMS and the district changes. So
no, it requires a commitment from the
yes.
district. But my point is, that's why I say fly 2 years ahead and work back 6 months behind that to say, we probably will get to the point that says there's a transitional course that kids with, just like everybody took freshman seminar in college.
Joe, I bet the teachers need the time to get familiar so they know how to use it. The kids need 2 days for it.
I hear you say that, but the 7th grader's biggest concern is still the combination lock. So, you know.
Well, again, all of our students go through our technology class in the arts rotation. I mean, those kinds of things are easy enough to weave in for a small period of time to expose them to Canvas.
That's what I'm
Give
talking
them
about.
that demonstration, introduction, yes.
I look at this, I look at the LMS being the potential, combination lock in high school. And that's
The one thing I can say is with these students, I don't see them. So they
Not the
have to,
students.
with the virtual students, they need those 2 weeks because I'm not there with them. We need to work through each one of their problems, wherever they are, whatever device they're using. With my brick and mortar students, I bring them into the computer lab. It takes them 1 period, 55 minutes, and they're good.
That we should know that,
Yeah.
that's just,
We did a face-to-face orientation with middle school and the high school students.
all I say.
There are little nuances.
And the other thing, which we will cover with you, but someday we'll chuck into the whole conversation, is this is great, but let's talk about how it works for the students who have IEPs and other disabilities. So let's stay focused on the core here, but we have to keep in mind that this is for, you put it up there, it said all of our students. It wasn't 90%, it wasn't 95%. You put up the quote that said
But
all.
for the first year, we had IEP students doing it, in the first year.
I understand that, but we have to make sure the courses stay.
Right, I'm just saying, there were IEP
True to
students in it in 12, 13.
The other piece that I'll add to the conversation is having Canvas or any other LMS is certainly not strictly a middle or a high school type program or type system. There are many school districts who use Canvas or other LMSs very successfully at the middle level and even in the elementary level. So that's something for us to keep in mind. And so Denise, to your question earlier, in terms of vision, and there was a north-centered question, vision was up there at the time. Our vision as a school district, and this was part of an earlier 2.9 question that I provided an answer to, was we foresee having one LMS that as a school district we commit to. And so the question becomes, at what grade level does that begin? But at that grade level and up through 12th grade, that is the LMS. It is the one and only LMS. And one of the reasons for that is that if you're a student, but especially if you're a parent, and you go from teacher to teacher to teacher to teacher, you don't need to navigate this platform to that platform to some other platform. So our kids are a little bit more adept at being able to maneuver different platforms. But especially as we think about our moms and dads, our parents and guardians, we want this to be user friendly. And Jason showed some of the ways that parents are able to interface with the system. So we want that to look the same for Latin as it does for social studies and math and English and so on and so forth.
Any other questions?
I'm just wondering how intuitive and user-friendly it is for teachers, and do you have training or support, or is there online support?
I've figured it out. So I went to a bunch of Althea sessions on Moodle a couple of years ago, and she tried valiantly, and I didn't learn. I couldn't do it. But this, I got into it, and then with very little time, I watched the sessions that were online training things, and it caught on so much quicker. It's very intuitive.
This will replace your webpage, it's true, right? This is your webpage then for your classes.
Right, yeah, my class website just says go to Moodle.
And this is why this is not at all, and you've heard this represented, this is not at all a virtual course thing. Yes, it is. That's the piece of it. This is online, in-class learning as well, which we're looking to be relevant with college and universities, but with any futures that our students hold, it's going to be a computer-based world. So this is part of that relevancy. So even if we're in the classroom 5 days a week, you still have a tremendous amount of value and utility to a tool like this.
So are you recommending this at this point, or are you still?
We are not.
But I also,
Only because we're not.
That's what I meant.
We will be recommending something,
Right,
but no.
you haven't decided which,
Exactly.
okay.
and we had an initial conversation with the teachers group as we were looking to select an LMS. And one of the questions that has come up, and I think we have to explore as a district, is do we want to get to a point where there's an expectation that every high school student has at least one virtual course, to have that opportunity to experience a virtual course in preparation for college, in preparation for the workplace. And I don't know the answer to that. Many school districts have gone that direction. It's a requirement, a graduation requirement to fulfill the course, but I think at some point this district will need to, probably look to have that conversation. I don't know if that's next year or 5 years down the road, but it's probably one that needs to happen.
Is Blackboard an element? Okay.
I've had students informally pull them when they come back from their freshman year or their sophomore year, and they come back, and I'll ask them, are all send out a tweet and ask for feedback of what they think from using Moodle in the past. And the first thing they say, I didn't get an F on my first paper because I could turn it in. Everybody else didn't know how. And it doesn't, regardless of whether it's Moodle or Canvas or Blackboard, it's the fact that they're using an LMS and that they understand the concept of submitting a document and uploading the document and where to find some of the buttons. And although, some of it user-friendly as far as teaching it, the students on the other end of it, it doesn't matter which one it is.
And so we have a couple quotes from some of our current students, medical one. We have a student who's using it both as a blended and as a virtual. She just loves it both ways. The students seem very receptive to it. And there's a learning curve, without question. Talking about the support, they have online training. We had a staff member from the IU come down and work with some of our staff members a couple weeks ago. But a lot of it is just like anything else, playing around with it and learning it. And Althea and I, we speak 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Luckily, his office is really close to my house.
Kind of just learning our way through the system. But once we figure it out, we're able to share it with everybody else and it makes it a smooth process.
What's the time frame in which you think you'll have a recommendation? What do you think this should be run?
We have not had those discussions yet, but having recently elsewhere just gone through this process of evaluating, studying, and coming to a decision on an LMS, I would say it's to do it in earnest is at least a 2 to 3-month process, just to study it and look at it and connect with other school districts who are using it.
I'm not gonna hold him to this, what's the general financial investment?
This year, because there was a one-time integration fee of, I don't know, remember what that was, Jason, was that $4,000? I think the total cost for Canvas this year is $10,000.
But if we expanded it, I assume that would be a greater cost than that.
It's a per student.
Yes,
license.
per
Do you remember what the
seat, yeah.
per student
It's
fee is?
5 something per,
$5.78 this year, $6.07 next year.
Per student.
Per student.
And is
The
there,
integration fee was just.
is there a sliding
So
scale when you have more
$60,000
students?
in every given district.
Now, this recommendation or looking at something like this, does that come exclusive of technology conversations?
No, in fact,
Does it come in a package that says, here's what our 5-year vision looks like, and here's the different elements of that, this being one?
Yes, in fact, this is part of the technology committee that we have up and running. This is part of that one half of that group who's looking at the instructional side of things. This is part of what they're looking at / go.
Awesome.
Do you see, and I just asked a question, so let's say it's about $60,000 for everything in the district has. That's the cash out. There's the component that, that's just the buying the software, where there's also buying, there's the training, and there's the development effort. So, I mean, there's some aspect that the first couple of years you have it, I don't think anybody's gonna jump, maybe you did, jump full mode into the thing and it's full on, or are you still doing lesson plans this way and that way? So does it have an implication in terms of staffing, in terms of, instead of one criteria, is there some element that we need to think about? So as you develop your proposal, I imagine that'll be an aspect.
It's more, in my mind, a training issue and what's realistic. And then how that maps on what your expectations are as a school district. So for instance, I just grew out 2 to 3 months, right, in response to this question that was asked. For us to think that we would be ready for all teachers in grades 9 to 12, for instance, in the 16-17 school year, to be ready to implement this with fidelity, forget about it. I mean, it's just, there has to be a process, there has to be a transition as part of this. But this is where we talk about tech integration specialists or tech coaches. And so if you have those resources, so if we have the tool and we have the personnel to work with folks over the course of the transition school year, now the expectations can be different on the 2017-18 school year.
That's actually a place I think that we've fallen short because everything is moving so quickly. So you've got teachers, we don't tend to add those requirements. And so you've got teachers updating websites, teachers using smartphones, other teachers not. Everybody wants to teach within their comfort level as well as what works best for them. So that, I don't know how you manage those pieces. that everybody's an entirely different skill set. And I think most of the teachers would want to do it, but I think it would intimidate a great number of our staff.
Don't we need to go to some uniformity for the kids, the
I would think
parents?
it would be in everybody's
Let
best
alone,
interest.
I mean, you know, even how uniform it needs.
I think the intimidation factor diminishes when you do things like you did, introducing your staff and you start using it. I can relate that to a certain software program that I use at work, that we had to make a shift and everybody was like, oh my God, I have to retrain. But once you start using it, we moved to a platform that was so much more intuitive and it's actually kind of fun. And I think that there's an element, it sounds like, to that, to Canvas, that the teachers will find a way to slowly but surely get into. But I mean, to your point, Kyle, I mean, that's absolutely valid. But I think that there could be a lot of excitement generated, and if it's as easy to work in, that makes it.
Yeah, I just feel like we've left it, and it's largely budget. I mean, we took away so much staff development and said teachers are going to train teachers. And I think that works, and it works great, and everybody's really wonderful about it. But I think it's left some folks in a place where they're intimidated. I don't know if this is the same or not. But to Jerry's point, I think there is much more of a financial investment than we're talking about just the actual doing the implementation.
And that was my point around the whole money that was left over from last year. There's, I'd like it to be financial information, but not decided on finances if we're gonna go down this path. And more like, this is what we need to get this up and running. I think the intimidation factor comes if you say, oh, we've chosen this in June, and you will do, starting August, teach on it. We say we buy it in June, it's gonna be available next year, and here's your tech support who will be in your building every Tuesday and Thursday, and they have their way back and say, try it, and I think
But
we're
one
perfect.
technology integration specialist.
Is it gonna do it?
Certainly
That-
1.5 isn't gonna do it.
That's right, but we may need 10 the first year, we might only need 3 long-term. So, I think we have to start to look at those expenses, and everybody's like, oh, if they're recurring expenses, that, that's my point, guys.
Well, as long as everything comes with a plan, I think that
I think we're.
people will be open to making the
I think
investment.
we need to move this kind of stuff forward faster and let some other financial things wait.
So I just wanted to say, I don't know if the conversation's over, but Jason has taken a big chunk of this for the district. He is taking responsibility to integrate Canvas for us, and he did the same with Blackboard, working with the teachers, and then teachers like Lauren and Althea, and you can see the additional time that they put in to build these courses, develop them, and spend with kids. Just it really is an accolade to them for the work that they've done to help us to move in this direction. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, we have a little party to go to, so thank you all very much.